It is a celebration of you and us on Orange and Blue today. Fired up, talk a little Broncos, talk a little Scatterbo, and we're doing it OBT After Dark style. So that means, well, you never know what you're going to get. Orange and Blue today. Denver Sports YouTube celebration time. Y'all got us there. So here on a day that we're supposed to be off, we're going to take a little time for you. And we'll see who pops in. You never know who we're going to get as the night goes on. So jump into the chat room right now. Cecil Lammy flying solo. And we're waiting for everyone else. But it is OBT After Dark. As you notice, when we do it this style, Mason and I like to turn the lights down and talk a little Broncos and talk with you. So we're here, and as I wait for others to jump in, whoever's going to jump in tonight, we'll see. Like I said, I've sent out the invite. So you never know who's going to jump in. I'm getting some text messages back from some who may or may not jump in. But either way, Mace is going to show up tonight. I'll be here tonight, and it's just kind of an AMA, kind of ask me anything, celebrate Denver sports, celebrate the Broncos, and really have a discussion, right? Mace and I had talked out at Broncos today about like, okay, we're going to do like an orange and blue today, but, when are we going to do it? And how are we going to do it? And because we had yet to fulfill our obligation to you of doing a OBT After Dark, we figured, yeah, let's just do it, right? Let's do it. Let's do it after dark and let's talk about it. So Twitter is fired up. YouTube is fired up. And let's jump in and talk about the Denver Broncos. Talk about whatever you want, really. I'll answer any question that you may have. So, yeah, that'll be a little exciting tonight. And Mace will jump in here. I know he's working behind the scenes to jump on. I did invite some others as well. So, Blanket, we're live. So, I want to hear from you. And let's talk about it because we know that Scatterbo, Arizona State running back, everyone's losing their mind. Ashton Gente, Scatterbo. I've always said Devin Neal, DJ Giddens, Caleb Johnson, there's a ton of great backs in this draft class. So, will the Broncos pick up a back? Who would they be looking for? All these sorts of things. These are all part of the conversation. So, let's go. Glam Spundu says, OBT After Dark, to what do we owe the pleasure? That is to you guys. That's to you out there. So we're just going to jump on. We're going to live stream. And we're going to answer questions or we're going to talk. And it may go 45 minutes, may go an hour and 45 minutes. I have no idea. That's the kind of cool thing about this. And it's on New Year's Day. I guess first, before I jump in and start, I should just say, hey, I hope everyone had a really good New Year's celebration, a happy and safe New Year's celebration. I hope y'all were able to do that and, enjoy time with your friends, your family, set up some New Year's resolutions. We talked about it on Dover and Cecil, like, what are the New Year's resolutions for the Broncos? Like, what could that look like? Well, either way, no matter what it looks like, set your goals, set your plans. It's always good to have a plan, always good to have a goal in mind, that's for sure. And then go attack it and go get it, because a dream is, kind of not necessarily a fantasy. Again, I'm a dreamer, so I think that's a good thing. But when you have a goal, you have a plan. And when you have your plan, you can take action. And action is among the three general principles that we all must have. So make your New Year's resolutions. Drop the weight, go to the gym, have better work relationships, like whatever you want, whatever your New Year's resolutions are, go for it. Now, again, Glam. This whole show's for you guys. So if you have any questions about the Broncos, current, past, present, future, questions about the draft, I did apply for my Senior Bowl and Shrine Bowl credentials today. It'll be 19 years in a row, getting on the road for that. 19 years in a row. And I've often said I'll go to 20 and then I'll stop because I'm like 20 years in a row doing anything is just enough, buddy, enough. So always good to be in Dallas or Tampa or Houston or Orlando or wherever the Shrine Bowl's been that I've been. Always good to be in Mobile. Hashtag the draft starts in Mobile. So go see Jim Nagy and company there as well. So that'll be fantastic and that'll be great to really get back out on the road again. So I will see Scatterbo at the Senior Bowl. I will see Shedeur Sanders at the Shrine Bowl. Of course, the Broncos aren't going to draft Shedeur Sanders, but there's some of those CU receivers. Jimmy Horn's going to be there, right? Jonte Wester's going to be there. So, you know, are there going to be some CU to Broncos pipeline? Yeah, maybe. We'll see. Certainly a great running back class. And it doesn't have to be Broncos. Hey, you want to ask me about anything, the Batman or anything, you can ask that as well, because this is just a celebration for you. This is our 16,000 kind of celebration. I am going to talk about the topic for YouTube purposes, of course, algorithm purposes. How much fight will Bo Nix have for the Broncos with the playoffs on the line? Mason and I had talked to Adam Troutman today. You're going to hear from Adam Troutman. I would assume that's quite a bit of fight. Jason chimes in, 11 p.m. in South Carolina, but he's here. Denver Broncos for life. Jason, appreciate you. Thank you very much for jumping in here tonight. And shout out where you're from, man. Certainly appreciate everyone across Broncos country. Broncos country is global. It's certainly across the United States of America, but it is 1,000% global. So, yeah, jump in. Tell us where you're from. And again, I've got the invite out to quite a few people. We'll see who shows up here with me tonight. But we all wanted to really take time out, and I'll speak for everybody before people start jumping in. We all wanted to take the time to just say thanks, you know, to get to 16,000 subscribers. It was a big goal. And it's just getting started. You know, I understand there's a lot of channels that are a lot larger and all these sorts of things. But a year ago, I essentially kind of started running our YouTube channel because I love YouTube and I've got an obsessive mind. And I just, when I love something like Batman, I have every Batman from 77 till now, not 1977, number 77, which I believe is in the 50s. So every Batman comic till now, because I love Batman, right? I'm obsessive. I have one Shelby. I want more Shelbys. I love Star Wars. Like whatever I love, I really get into. I love YouTube. It's a format that I've appreciated from day one. I've been podcasting since 2006, celebrating 20 years of the Audible with Sigmund Bloom this year. We got started before they were even called podcasts. So YouTube, when it first started, I was like, wait, it's like your own channel. You just watch what you like. You don't have to surf or, you know, you don't have to wait around. You just like, I like the Broncos. I'm going to watch Broncos shows. For me, I like comic books. I'm going to watch comic book shows. Shout out Comic Tom. Right? Like, so it was always a great format. And YouTube was kind of silly before. It's still silly now. And you saw how it grew and continued to grow and continues to grow today. It's such an important part of, you know, a business footprint, if you will. So, you know, to a year ago, kind of take over the YouTube channel just because I'm obsessive. And I was like, hey, I really like YouTube. We're not doing anything right. Let's start doing stuff right. And then to set the goals, like, okay, what could we be in a year? And I said 16,000. And I was like, it's going to be close. It's going to be close. And it was close for sure. I'll get you the current number right now in terms of subscribers, 16,311. So we made it 16,311. I'm not sure what the count was yesterday. But you know, we're around that. I think it was 2 something. So we got over 16,000 by the end of the year, got us a nice little Christmas bonus. So that was good there as well. And it's all because of you guys. Behind the scenes, lots of stuff goes into this. A lot of stuff goes into it. For anyone out there, that wants to be a YouTube star or whatever, like, okay, get ready for a lot of work. Get ready for a lot of change. YouTube is about change. It's not about just doing the same thing over and over again. It's like changing, being current, changing your thumbnails, changing how you intro things. Like, you have to be current because people have the attention span of a ferret on a double espresso. So, like, yeah, uh, be ready for that change. So, during that time and during this last year, you see how Just Orange and Blue Today has changed, and how Mace and I have approached OBT, which is a BFD, in a different way than we did to start with, and how we keep trying to fine tune that. We keep trying to sharpen our sword and our tools in terms of what we bring you to our YouTube audience. There's a lot of people that jump on live right now. I currently have about 1,000 people watching live right now. That's awesome. There's a lot of people that watch afterwards as well. So this show is for you. It's all about you. Again, invites are out. We'll see who jumps in, and then let's talk some Broncos. I was out at the facility today. Mace was there. Mace watched practice. I was there for open locker room and talked to, Mike McGlinchey. Did talk to A.T. Perry. We get a lot of A.T. Perry questions. I mean, my God, like every show. What about A.T. Perry? There's good stuff there, man. There's good stuff there. So as I wind down tonight, and you'll say, pull over. No, it's a cardigan. Thanks. It's not a robe. My cardigan, which looks like a robe. I'm just sitting here chilling with you guys tonight. So send me your questions in the chat room. Can be about anything, and I'll talk about it, and we'll go for as long. We'll have as many guests as we possibly can, and we'll see who can jump in and who can't. So there you go. Again, getting more texts in, but we're always appreciated of you guys out there. So Mace is joining us shortly, so very good, and always good to do the low lighting, right? It's always a different feel. Mace and I just like hanging out, so it's like a good hangout, kind of talk Broncos, talk whatever you guys want, and all that, and then some. So yeah, I'll put up your questions, put up your comments. No silly super chats. That's what we do on this program and on our Denver Sports YouTube channel. We got a lot of good stuff coming up. Can't reveal everything. Hell, I don't really know everything, but I do know that we've got some good stuff coming up for you on our Denver Sports YouTube channel. So just everyone stay tuned for that. We're going to bring you a lot more good stuff. We're going to have a great time. We're going to have fun talking all things Denver sports. So again, we are just getting started. We got to 16,000 because of you guys. And, because of you guys, then we'll have to just give you the Keanu kiss, the thank you, because you guys made it happen. And the ultimate compliment on Orange and Blue Today is the Patrick Bateman kiss. Yes, that's right. You guys made it happen. So we are here for you. And again, Mace will be joining me shortly, and we'll see who else jumps in here as well. Let's see. Mark's checking in from Florida. What's up, Mark? How's it going down there in Florida? By the way, we did have Jason send out some prayers for those in New Orleans. Yes, I just mentioned Sigmund Bloom not that long ago. He lives down there in New Orleans. He's okay. But certainly our hearts go out to New Orleans there as well. Adam Troutman was asked about that today. He lived about a mile from where that happened. So yes, always sending out some prayers. And listen, we get to play in the sandbox of life. It's sports. Okay. There's a lot of heavy stuff out there. And, back to my Happy New Year, or like, this is the best time of year for everybody, not for everybody. And had one of my dear friends lose a parent over Christmas, just in fact, a couple of days ago. So, just know everyone's always going through something. So let's be happy. Let's celebrate. Let's celebrate humanity. Let's celebrate each other. And let's be positive in whatever way we can be positive, because it's a heavy time out there for a lot of people that I know. So, we're going to talk Broncos. We're going to keep it light and sweet, baby. But we're also going to know and send our prayers out to those that need it, because there's plenty of people out there that do. So let me know where you're checking in from. Get me your questions in. Mace is going to be here shortly, and then we're just going to talk. We're just going to talk Broncos, or we're just going to talk whatever you want. Again, it's AMA. It's Ask Me Anything. So that may be a little dangerous, but here we go. Here we go. Dustin saying, let's go. We need this win. They are preparing as if the starters are going to play. And when the inactives are officially official, when we know Pat Mahomes not going to play or whatever, then the Broncos can adjust some things. But from that locker room today, and Mace can say more of his insights, but we had players, Troutman specifically, say like, hey, we're preparing as if the starters are playing, which is good. They should be. They should be. You don't want to take this thing lightly. You don't want to, like kind of we just got to show up, guys. No, you have to win. And that's the difference here for the Denver Broncos. You don't just do this, we're going to show up stuff. No, you have to go win. Go take this thing. And I don't care if it's against Carson Wentz or Chris Oladokun or whoever, who's the backup, who's the third string. Like, I know there's a third stringer out there that they had thought about putting in. So, like, yeah. All right. I'm looking it up right now because I wrote about it at Football Guys. And I was like, you're really going to play your third string? All right. So there you go. That was a report out of there. Looks like Isaiah Pacheco will be healthy for the playoffs, so they're going to rest him. That means plenty of as much a Kareem Hunt as you possibly can for Kansas City. Maybe some more Samaje Perine, Carson Steele when he's not fumbling the ball. And even their backups are guys that are trying to work up more towards Hollywood Brown, maybe mix him in a little bit more. Noah Gray, really good backup tight end there. Jared Wiley was hurt, for anyone that was asking. I know before the draft, I was talking on and on and on about Jared Wiley, and I was so upset, like physically ill, when the Chiefs ended up getting Jared Wiley. He got hurt. He hurt his knee. It was about first month of the season, something like that. So he's done for the year. Jason says, let's not get too crazy on Scatterbo. Yep. Scatterbo is a second round pick to me. Now he is Gente's number one. He's first round pick. Hampton's my number 2 back. Johnson's number 3. Early swipes right now. The Tennessee kids, names eluding me right now. You've got options here. You've got options if you're the Denver Broncos. So got a lot of comments today on X, on Twitter, about Scatterbo. It's like, yeah, that would be cool. But are the Broncos looking for something more dynamic at the running back position? Not to say, don't at me, bro, because, well, I'm about ready to go to bed when I'm done with the show. And I'll scout in person Scatterbo. I'll talk to him. I'll get a better feel. It is the time when I begin my favorite time of year, which is Shrine Bowl, Senior Bowl, scouting prospects from college to the pros. Most of the time when someone asks me in September, like, what do you think of this guy? You can look at their avatar on Twitter. And it's like, oh, you're from Arizona State. Yeah, he's the greatest ever. Watch him in December. So now December, January here. It's kicked off for me. I've got early swipes for grades right now. But the way I like to do it is I like to take a broad look. And having collected their games in terms of, I want 4 games from their final year of starting. And then I want to watch for the quarterbacks last year specifically. I watched all their games. So that took some time. This year, won't have to worry about quarterbacks, but still digging into running backs, digging into tight ends, digging into receivers, and just know the early swipers you're going to have in the second and third rounds. And with the first round there as well. And I believe there's one first round graded running back that is Gente's top 10 pick in my eyes. And I don't want to say like Hall of Fame wise, because he's got like Emmitt Smith to his game, but that's kind of the stylistic comparison that I would say there. And for people like, oh, I didn't do anything against Penn State. Okay, that's fine. I had to hear Marshall Faulk was terrible in the WAC. All right, from a pro skill set. And yes, Penn State, pretty good, pro prospects themselves defensively. But if you talk about whole team, full effort, he's the best back we've seen since Saquon Barkley. You want Saquon Barkley? It's pretty good. And he's not Barkley in terms of his skill set. He's more, there's like Emmitt Smith type stuff to his game. But he's a top 10 pick. There's one first round back. But if we go the first 3 rounds, so first, Ginty, second and third, there might be a dozen. I want to say 15 backs taken, but let's just say a dozen. I think that's a real good number. There'll be a dozen running backs taken in the first 3 rounds, and they all can play. They all can play. They all can be pro prospects. Like, this is the year you want running backs. It's not the year you want quarterbacks. And I've heard some stuff, and this is super, super early, but you'll know some tea that, like, hey, there's teams that are liking Cam Ward more than Shedeur. I don't agree with that. I've only got 2 quarterbacks graded with first-round grades. Shedeur is the top quarterback. He's not the best player in this draft. In my opinion, that's Travis Hunter. But if you look at how NFL teams are talking, and most of the stuff you hear in January is much more reliable or truthful than what you hear in April. Once the season of lies begins around March, most of what you hear is BS. So I want everyone to be careful with that, right? Especially as we get further and further along. All I know is before I even step foot on a plane to go to the Shrine Bowl, the buzz from the scouting buddies that I talk to, and I talk to GMs, there's a couple owners I talk to, there's plenty of road scouts I talk to. The buzz right now is there's a couple of people out there like, I kind of like Cam Ward a little better. That will grow. How much does it crescendo? How much of it is bull? You know what? We're going to see. We're fixing to find out. But just know that conversation's already out there. And yeah, part of it is from the Alamo Bowl. Whether you like it or not, get as offended as you like. That's what's happened. And Cam Ward sitting out half of the Pop-Tart Bowl didn't affect anything. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. So we'll see how that goes on. Glam says, thoughts on Skeleton Crew? I'm digging it. I like the premise for Skeleton Crew. I usually wait until everything's done, Star Wars wise, to just kind of absorb it all at once. And then, the Acolyte was not good. I'm sorry. And it doesn't have anything to do with their being woke or whatever. It's bad writing. It's a terrible story. Skeleton Crew, I like the premise. I imagine I like the story, but I like everything to be done. And once football seasons is over, and, that's the way it goes for me, where it's over and then I can watch it. So you never know what you're going to get. Give me the thumbs up, Mace, if you're ready, buddy. Give me the thumbs up there. Oh, not yet. Not yet. He's putting in videos. Okay. That's, we've got special guests coming up. So yeah, ask us anything. We're here to celebrate you guys. Watching from New Jersey. Hi, Sharon. How's it going? Good to see you. Dustin's go man, need this win, been way too long. Would be very nice to get into the postseason, because I was texting with Frank Schwab, buddy from Yahoo Sports, does great work, has always done great work, used to work for the Colorado Springs Gazette and used to cover the Denver Broncos on a daily basis. I was texting with Frank today, just wishing him, like Happy New Year. And he said, the narrative on this season has changed. It's no longer a happy 9-win season, which I agree with. You got to get to the playoffs. Your off-season narrative changes 1,000% if you don't make the postseason. Your off-season narrative with the postseason, even if you get 41-10 against Buffalo, even if that's the case, you go, well, wait a second. They made the playoffs. They don't have everything they need. They'll work on getting everything that they need, and then they'll be able to take the next step next year. That's how the narrative has changed. And because that narrative has changed, I'm fine with the expectations changing. Like, you got to get in. You have to get in. And you have to make some noise as much as you can. I want to see the Broncos in the postseason with house money. I want to see, what does that look like? What does that entail? How is this team looking when it comes to, hey, you got nothing to lose? I guarantee Sean Payton go for 2 with nothing to lose then, right? Because you got nothing to lose. So I love the fact that we're there now with this Broncos team, and now you have to get there. You have to get there. Now, if they don't, can you step back and take the 25,000 foot view? And can you say, well, then this and overall, and you found your quarterback? Yes, you can say those things. I don't want to say those things. I want to say, F yeah, these guys made the playoffs. Great job. Great job. That's what I want to see. And that's what I want to kind of, get from the Broncos in return. They themselves have changed the narrative. And think of the celebration we could have then, right? We're celebrating 16,000 subscribers on YouTube. We're celebrating you. We're celebrating everything that you are for us and that you have been. And I know that Andrew Mason and I have been so very thankful for the audience, thankful for the OBT crew, because, yeah, man, who else is going to jump in the middle of the night and do a special show, right? Give me that thumbs up if you're ready, buddy. All right, here we go. Coming out, shoot number 9.
Whoops.
Hi, it's Andrew Mason.
That'll get everyone going, right? Yeah, I thought this was going to be a little later, and I had my phone on DND, do not disturb, and then I look down, I see that you were texting me, like, oh boy, yeah,
boy,
yeah. I think I even put on social media at 10 o'clock Mountain Time, so
yeah, so we get a little head start, right?
Yeah, so sorry about that. That's I'd had a nap earlier. I was feeling I thought okay, I got time to get these clips. Nope. Oh well. Anyway,
we're here, buddy.
We're here,
and we're celebrating our people, man.
Yeah, I guess I should turn the brightness on my screen down to give it more of the after dark effect. There we go. All right. Yes.
These aren't filters. This is how we really look.
Yes.
I'll give the floor to you for a little bit, Mace, because first off, just thanks to everybody.
Yeah.
We're going to talk plenty of Broncos tonight. We're going to get you what we saw in the locker room, guys we talked to, but just thank you to everybody, man.
16,000. I mean, obviously that may not be as big a number as some others, but we were kind of starting from a pretty low point, and we appreciate you. I mean, I was actually looking back at some of the earlier OBTs. When you and I started this, actually the first week we did this was the first regular season week. Now we did some training camp shows that year, but the first week it was Orange and Blue Today. I think actually I was in Seattle for the first show, checking in remotely. And of course that was the night of 46 left hash.
Wow.
Yeah. The night where we began truly realizing that Nathaniel Hackett was in over his head. And yeah. And then the crowd count. And then, I think even that week, I'm like, okay, let's see how they correct these things, right? Let's see what happens. Do they learn from this? And then the following game, they come home and the crowd has to count down the play clock because they can't get the play in fast enough. And the process is just so garbled, so fouled up. And at that point, you start realizing, okay, this guy may simply not have what it takes to be a head coach if they can't get basic process things right. So
and doesn't that seem like forever and a day ago? I mean, I guess it was technically, but as we sit here and celebrate our viewers and our 16,000 subscribers, You mentioned that week 1 Seattle. I'm like, that was a lifetime ago, man. We
I
were
know.
so different then.
The team was so different. I mean,
It was.
just let's just do an exercise here while I'm thinking about this. And this is one of the reasons why I used to like when it was just like radio and you couldn't, or audio and you couldn't really see us, is that you couldn't see when I was looking something up. Of course, it's a little different now. But let's go back to that week 1 in 2022, and starters who are still with the team: Cortland Sutton, Garrett Bowles, Quinn Miners, Javonte Williams, Pat Surtain, Alex Singleton on injured reserve, DJ Jones. Only 7 starters out of 22 are still with the Broncos now.
Wow.
And if we go through the entire roster, the number of the players who actually played in the game, you'd add PJ Locke, you would add Damari Mathis, Justin Sternad, Jonathan Cooper, Luke Wattenberg, Matt Henningsen on the practice squad. So that's just the start of 2 years ago. Only 13 players who played in that Seattle game are still with the Broncos.
Wow.
That is, I mean, that tells you how much has turned over in that time.
Yeah.
And if we include DMPs and inactives, so of the 53, you'd add Nick Benito and Eni Awazarike. So that's 15 out of 53. You've turned over 70% plus of this team in 2 years and in a season. Basically, it's remarkable how different it is. Adam Troutman talks about the culture. We're going to get into this, I think, a little bit later on. But say, he and Mike McGlinchey talking about guys like Cortland Sutton and Garrett Bowles who, have fit in. Like Troutman said some interesting things in recent weeks, and he's like last week, for example, talked about guys who had been around for a few years, and maybe because of that, there was a little bit of like an institutionalization almost. He didn't use that word, but it's what he meant, that they basically expect bad things to happen. You
Right.
get down and, oh, well, this isn't going to work out, because it hadn't worked out under Vance Joseph as a head coach and Vic Fangio and Nathaniel Hackett. They'd been through so much. And Garrett Bowles and Cortland Sutton are a couple of guys who'd been there for all the bleeding, and they adapted to the new environment, to the new expectation, to the new culture, to the point where Cortland Sutton has become one of the unquestioned leaders of the team, and Garrett Bowles just got a contract extension. They weren't Sean Payton guys, but they became Sean Payton guys.
Right.
They became culture guys. And so when I think about all the things that are floating around this week, one of the things I think about is those two and what it would mean for them to make the playoffs. The two guys that saw all the pain, all the defeat, all the bleeding. It's going to mean
agony.
Yeah, it's going to mean something to everybody if they can get this thing done on Sunday, but I don't think it's going to mean more to anybody than those two.
Right. Right.
It's something special for them. I hope that if the Broncos are about to wrap it up on Sunday afternoon, late Sunday afternoon, that somebody gets a camera on those two. Because I think there's going to be a lot of emotion, probably even the waterworks flowing from both of them, given what they've been through.
Yeah. And think of how they had to stick with this fan base, with multiple coaching staffs, with the front office changes.
Yeah.
I mean, Cortland Sutton was throwing Gatorade bottles at Emmanuel Sanders. That's how long ago this thing goes back. Garrett Bowles, I've always told the story, Mace, and I'll share it here on the special edition of Orange and Blue Today After Dark. I was in Philadelphia holding up my phone, interviewing Garrett Bowles, the very first person to interview him behind the stage. And he's looking at all the comments as they're coming up on the screen, because it's just me and the phone, and they're not good comments.
Yeah.
Because people didn't want him. They wanted Ryan Ramczyk or whoever. And, you know, of course, we know about Holding 72 and everything that he's had to go through. So just those two gentlemen alone and how they had the persistence to stay with it and to get there if they can, I think it'll be tremendous for both of those gentlemen.
I mean, you can count me among those who was saying they should take Ramczyk and not Bowles. I'll admit that.
Ramczyk's a hell of a player.
I'll cop to that. In the end, as it turned out, you couldn't go wrong with either of them. Garrett Bowles is sitting here, and he's putting together a case to be, you know, one of the best tackles in Broncos history. I think he could end up as the third best tackle in Broncos history. The top two, I think, are obvious: Gary Zimmerman and Ryan Clady.
Yeah.
Ryan Clady needs to be in the Ring of Fame. That's another discussion for another day. I feel like even though his career's not too far in the rearview mirror, he's been too quickly forgotten. But actually, I would even say as a Bronco, I think his best as a Bronco was better than Zimmerman's best as a Bronco. All respect to Zim, but I think peak Zim probably happened in Minnesota.
He's wearing purple.
Yes. But Ryan Ramczyk, guy who, was, all pro bowler. I mean, he had a terrific career before injuries caught up to him. It's also interesting to think about this. Ryan Ramczyk, of course, didn't play a game this year, right? And one of the critiques on Garrett Bowles was the age, that he was going to be 25 years old before he played his first pro game. Ryan Ramczyk was 2 years younger when he played his first game. And yet Garrett Bowles is kind of rounding into form and showing this durability that should mean he's a quality left tackle deep into his 30s, whereas Ryan Ramczyk seems like a guy who's alarmingly close to the end, right? Mm-hmm. So just kind of goes to show, like, age isn't everything. We could probably talk about that with Bo Nix as well. With Garrett Bowles in particular, playing a position there's a lot of contact at, like tackle. While his age said 25 when he made his NFL debut, his body didn't say that because he took up football so late that he did not have the accumulated wear and tear of playing in high school like a lot of guys have. I mean, he was playing lacrosse back in those days. A late start to football probably is the reason why we're talking about him being in terrific physical shape here, as he's going to turn 33 before the 2025 season, but it looks like he's entering his peak.
It's craziness. Look at our guy Bernard here in York.
Whoa, York.
Mm-hmm.
In Yorkshire, I imagine.
I'd imagine so as well.
Yes, a little shout out to Yorkshire. That's where my mother's from. She's from what is now officially West Yorkshire. Bradford is the city where she grew up. So
I like it.
Yeah.
We got fans all over the place, man. People checking in Hawaii, San Jose.
Yeah, and San Jose mentioning the prayers to those affected by the New Orleans attack this morning. That's, certainly Sean Payton got a little emotional talking about that at the end of the press conference because of his connections to New Orleans. Adam Troutman certainly was thinking about that a lot as well. Mike McGlinchey knew some people down there because, of course, it's Georgia Notre Dame. Mike McGlinchey's a Notre Dame product, and he said he knew people that were in New Orleans and even out on Bourbon Street last night. So whether you knew someone there or you've spent some time down there, I mean, I found myself thinking, like, where that happened. Like, I was, right there 2 months ago, just walking, maybe a little in a little bit of a state.
It's New Orleans, right?
Had a couple of cold pops.
Yeah, it's New Orleans. This is what you do.
Yeah, David checking in from Yuma, Arizona. Yuma, hometown of Nick Papagiorgio of Vegas vacation fame. Nick Papagiorgio from Yuma. He's in software.
We're gonna get loopy tonight because this show's all about them, man.
Yeah.
I told him when I jumped on, I was like, it may go 45 minutes, it may go an hour and 45 minutes. I have no idea. We're just going to talk. We're going to celebrate, man.
I was amazed that you wanted to get going, but like I said, when I saw that text and I realized that you text me when I was on Do Not Disturb, I'm like, oh crap. Yeah, I'm disappointed to miss the start, but that's okay.
Oh yeah, don't worry about that, baby. Don't worry about that. I would say I love DND because I just put a select few people, so it'll come through. Like,
I guess I need
awesome.
I guess I need to put you on that select few people that comes through. Like I
don't text you that often. You know what I mean? I'm not much of a text guy. I'm not a phone call guy either. You're not a phone call guy.
No. I actually did have a list of a few people that could break through D&D, and then I just realized if I put on D&D sometimes because I got to get my sleep.
That's silent mode for me.
Yeah, perhaps that's what I got to wake up to. Which is, it's always interesting when I go on D&D, and I look and I see there's like 15 messages in the work text chain. I'm like, oh boy, yeah. But
what happened?
It's part, kind of sometimes it's for my own sanity to go on D&D.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no excuses left. Yeah, you were saying something earlier about kind of how this season is going to be perceived if they don't win on Sunday. I'd say for that first week or two of the off season, it's going to be perceived as a disappointment. And then afterward, I think it's going to be focused on the progress of Bo Nix and the progress of the young players. But it's going to sting for a minute. And I say that first week or two because probably you're going to be watching that first round of the playoffs if the Broncos don't make it, and you're going to be like, dadgum, wish they were in.
Yeah.
If they make the playoffs, it's really interesting. I mean, not that you're not fighting to win, but I don't think there's going to be much disappointment, at least outside of the team itself, if they go one and done. I think everything's going to be viewed in the context of how far they came compared to what the expectations were heading into the season. And I think also you're going to have a moment for Bo Nix getting out there and actually getting to be in the playoffs. And I think the one thing about Bo Nix is he's had these experiences where he's learned just what it's going to take to match what those other quarterbacks do. The quarterbacks that you're going to have to deal with in the AFC.
Right.
And I mean, one of the things that remains a problem for the Denver Broncos, and it's something that and not to be negative here, but you are in a conference with Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, and Justin Herbert. At minimum, and that's others may step into that. CJ Stroud looked like he could get there, and he kind of backslid this year a bit, but we'll see where he is next year. It's often common for young quarterbacks to not have a straight incline. But
we'll have to remind people about that with Bo Nix next year.
Yes, we will. Mm-hmm. But he's learning what it takes to kind of match up with that. And certainly last Saturday, he delivered the game-winning drive to match Joe Burrow's greatness with some greatness of his own. And he talked about just kind of having to match the play and he's not facing the quarterbacks, but you're conscious of what that other quarterback is doing and being in these positions where he's been able to kind of go toe-to-toe with Joe Burrow, with Justin Herbert, with Patrick Mahomes. He led the game-winning drive, what should have been the game-winning drive against the Chiefs, against, matching and surpassing what Patrick Mahomes had done that day, if not for Alex Forsythe being on the wrong end of the Chiefs rush. Bo Nix, has that win in Kansas City. So here's Bo Nix talking about kind of going head-to-head with those great quarterbacks and what he's gotten from it.
Yeah, I am, but also it's the that the feeling of defeat that kind of stays with you that ultimately you try to avoid. Those two guys are playing at the highest level of our position, and they do their jobs really well. They're always motivated. They're always compete. They're tough. they make throw after throw after throw. They are able to scramble when they need to. So that's just the style of quarterback and the level of, quarterback play that you got to provide for the team, because those are playoffs teams. Those are the teams that you got to beat to go to the next level. And every playoff team is going to have a quarterback like this. So it's good to play against them.
Okay. Learning what it takes. And that's one thing about the playoffs. If you get that game, he's learning the lessons about the regular season. Going into Buffalo with Josh Allen on the other side, that's going to probably teach him another level as well. Even if the Broncos fall short, I think he's going to get something positive from that. Like, okay, I feel this way now. What will it take to not feel that way again? And having that lesson so soon, I think will accelerate Bo Nix's development. I think, and who knows, maybe he wins and maybe he passes the test and, who knows what happens from there. But just getting in there and having the exposure to that environment, I think will take Bo Nix up a notch in terms of the progress that he can make. Because so far, he has met every challenge. When more has been asked of him, he's delivered. When he was asked last Saturday to drive the team back downfield, he did it. Certainly a lot of help from Marvin Mims Jr. on that catch, but you know what? That was a heck of a throw. That was an accurate throw.
Yep.
It's a great throw and a great catch. Because Mims, great trust. And it opens up a horizon of possibilities going forward. It's hard not to feel good about where Bo Nix and this team are right now compared to what we thought they'd be. I mean, to me, going to the season, I thought a successful season was 6 or 7 wins if you found out that Bo Nix was the guy.
And that was the main caveat there, is like, I just want to know if Bo Nix is the guy.
They could have won 5 games and found out Bo Nix was the guy. The reason why we're talking about them being a playoff team is because the defense was playing at such a high level for so long. The defense is still playing at a high level in terms of generating sacks, but overall it's not. In fact, the last 4 games through December, they ranked 32nd in the league in total defense. Something I wrote about at denversports.com. By the way, an interesting stat there, Cease. The first 4 weeks that Vance Joseph back on the job as defensive coordinator 2023, Broncos were dead last in total defense. The last 4 weeks, 5 weeks, dead last in total defense. Between those 2 times, 8th in the league. So they were pretty good for a while. They haven't been pretty good lately. It put a greater challenge on Bo Nix. If the defense had been playing at the level it had been for most of the season, able to get some quicker stops than it did against Cincinnati, then Bo Nix probably what he did would have probably been enough to win that game. So, but that's the way it is in the NFL. Sometimes you've got to win when other phases of the team aren't in an optimal place. That's part of it. You've got to meet the challenge. We'll find out. We're fixing to find out if Bo Nix can do that. And by the way, I think this game on Sunday against Kansas City might be tougher than anybody realizes.
Oh, yeah.
But Carson Wentz played in a game like this last year. And he was pretty good. Pretty effective. The Rams beat San Francisco. He was 17 of 24, a couple of touchdowns, 1 pick, a rating just a skosh under 100. For a guy who hadn't played all year, a guy left for dead, that was pretty good. Wouldn't surprise me if Carson Wentz has a pretty good game on Sunday, especially, again, the way this defense is playing.
Well, the guy that watches Sam Darnold go out there, how much money is Sam Darnold going to make?
Yeah.
Carson Wentz is the next guy up saying, wait a second, I can be that guy.
By the way, a little interesting nugget dropped by Sean Payton today saying that they reached out to Carson Wentz in the offseason when they were looking for another backup quarterback or a bridge type of quarterback potentially. Of course, it ended up being Zach Wilson, but they reached out to Carson Wentz.
Hey, he was out there, right?
Yeah.
Make the call.
Left no stone unturned. That was an interesting tidbit from today.
I think it'll be interesting to see who they add as a backup for Bo next year.
Is it somebody who's already there?
Maybe if Wilson wants to stay.
You don't think it could be Stidham then, as settling into a backup role?
If they, and we had the conversation at the owners' meetings with Coach Payton of like, when do you know this is just what he is? And he's like, we're not there yet. I think they know that now. I mean, you go get Zach Wilson, you're reaching out to Carson Wentz. You're not doing that if you think Jarrett Stidham is what you would want moving forward. He's fine.
Okay.
He's fine. But Wilson might be a little more exciting. Even Wentz might be a little more exciting. And no one wants Bo to miss any time, but you have to be ready. Look at the Lions. They went and got Teddy Bridgewater. You know, Hendon Hooker's a fine quarterback. They needed something better.
They're trying to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And if something happens to Jared Goff, they want somebody who isn't going to be fazed by the moment. It was a good call on their part. Teddy Bridgewater has been a starter in this league. Another guy who kind of like Bo Nix in Kansas City directed what should have been a game-winning drive in a crucial moment. In that case, the wild card round against Seattle. But then, of course, Blair Walsh missed the kick, and that was that.
And that's all she wrote.
Man. How do
Tyler
I send
asked, how do I send a super chat? We don't do super chats, but just say what you want to say.
You say what you want to say, and you don't have to give us money. Okay.
You gave us money by subscribing because we got to our 16,000 goal.
That's we're not asking for a little extra. We're not, we were asking for subscribers. We weren't asking, for donations to the cause, as it were.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Are we the only crazy ones, Mace? I sent out and I've heard back from some people. I'll pull the curtain back. I heard back from Dover. I've sent out this invite. It's like, we must be the only crazy ones that want to do a show at, 10 o'clock at night.
It's a holiday for the company.
Give me 5 minutes, man.
We were out there today for Broncos. I've got another article to put up tonight, but it was a holiday for the company. So I think people kind of took that to heart, but it's when you're covering a team like
in the playoffs, in the playoff chase.
Even if they were 4-12, I would have been out there today. I mean, that's just what I do. Bo Nix talked about it. Hey, like you work on New Year's Day. It's just what you do when you're covering a team, covering an NFL team specifically. If you cover a baseball team, you know what? You're working the 4th of July, you're working Labor Day, you're working Memorial Day. That's the way it goes. This is the business we chose. We chose a business that involved being out there on Christmas asking Vance Joseph about the state of his defense, and it is what it is.
Yeah.
I wonder what VJ is going to say tomorrow. By the way,
I will be there with bells on.
The glitches have not been fixed, so to speak.
The warts have not been covered up.
No. And now that the book is out there, it's sort of like the success equation has changed. It's not defense and a running game now. Maybe you actually have to outscore your, that's cliche. Oh, you score more points to win, but maybe you've got to start winning games and expecting to score 30 plus to win. Maybe that's just the expectation now, based on where there's this defense is. Maybe not this week, because again, it won't be just they're without Patrick Mahomes. Although, like I said, Carson Wentz can still play pretty well. They probably won't have Travis Kelce out there, although Noah Gray certainly can make some plays too.
Oh yeah.
But without the Mahomes-Kelce duo, which seems to be on this higher level of communication and cohesion. Another pair that's like that is Burrow and Chase in Cincinnati. You can tell like that when a quarterback and a receiving target are really clicking, it's something special to behold.
It's fun.
Yeah. Hope that Bo Nix can find that. I mean, it takes time. You don't get there in a year. That's the thing. You don't get there in a year. But hopefully, like in 2 years, we're talking about Bo Nix with one of these receiving targets having that sort of special connection. Maybe it's with somebody who's here. Maybe it's with somebody who's not yet here. Tyler Warren. I don't think there are any. I don't think there are any questions about Tyler Warren now, are there?
No, I would again just caution people. One, he's not Brock Bowers.
Yeah.
And fans will expect Brock Bowers, and you will not get Brock Bowers.
No. But I think you can get 75 catches from him for 900 yards.
And imagine if Mims takes another step. Like he's just starting.
Yeah, that's the intriguing thing. Even though Mims isn't the prototypical Sean Payton receiver, we've seen Sean Payton have success with smaller pass catchers, Brandon Cooks. Yep. So there's room for that. If they can find their form in enough areas of other areas of the game. Like you and I said a couple of days ago, Marvin Mims Jr., if you took the last 4 games, he'd be on pace for a 1,200-yard season.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Not bad. Where can he go next?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm doing this so I don't sneeze. I don't want to sneeze on camera again.
Okay. All right. I can always take you off camera for real quick so you can sneeze.
Yeah. I'm in a little more light than you are. You are very much in the shadows.
We said OBT after dark.
I know, but I've got the flickering. It's the flick. Well, no, I have the screen, the monitor here. It's the flickering light of the television. I have a sports documentary on right now. It's on the history of the ACC basketball tournament.
Okay. I watched a mini documentary, and I will tell you about it because we all love Die Hard, right? Die Hard's a great Christmas movie.
Yes, it is a Christmas movie. I'm glad you said that.
When the security guard at Nakatomi Plaza is watching, I believe it's the Rose Bowl, right? Notre Dame, USC. There is a gentleman who found the game because they used real game footage. He found the play that was playing on the screen as the guy's got his feet kicked up like that.
Yeah.
And it's 1982.
Okay, but here's the thing. Notre Dame and USC wouldn't be playing on Christmas Eve because they play in the regular season. So back then they wouldn't have played in a bowl game.
Look it up super quick. When was that 1982 game? Because
Thanksgiving weekend. It depends. If it's a game at Notre Dame, it's usually in October. If
it was in the Rose Bowl, based on the background,
or the Coliseum, you mean?
The Coliseum, yes.
Okay. They always play that game Thanksgiving weekend. So that's one thing that bothered me about that is like if there were a football game on Christmas Eve at that time, it would have been an NFL playoff game. And oh, by the way, it would not have been happening at sunset in Los Angeles because in 1988, the year Die Hard came out, the wild card round was Christmas weekend. And there were 2 games because there were only you didn't have Super Wild Card weekend. You only had 5 teams in each conference make the postseason. So there's 1 wild card game. And on Saturday, Houston was at Cleveland. It was an early afternoon game, East Coast time, because at the time the NFL did not want to play on Christmas Eve night. So there were no football games happening on Christmas Eve night in 1988. Okay. And such was the NFL's desire to avoid playing late on Christmas Eve back then. Nowadays, they don't care. We've covered night games on Christmas Eve. They crossed that bridge back in 2007 when they sent the Broncos out to San Diego to play on Christmas Eve night on Monday Night Football. So that's long gone. So what they did was they had the AFC game on Saturday the 24th. They took Christmas Day off and they played Rams at Vikings NFC wildcard game on Monday the 26th. They did something very similar in 19 '83 as well with the wild cards. The Broncos and Seahawks played on Christmas Eve, 1 p.m. Pacific time in Seattle. And then the Cowboys and Rams played on December 26th on a Monday. I believe it was a 2 p.m. Dallas time. Okay. And I believe also 1977 when the Broncos, it was the divisional round that year. The AFC divisional playoffs were on Christmas Eve. They skipped Christmas Day, and then they went to the NFC games on Monday the 26th. And the Broncos played on Christmas Eve with a 2 p.m. start time, Mountain Time. The whole point of it was the NFL for a long time did not want a team to play on Christmas Eve night in their time zone. That, of course, is gone bye-bye. Like it doesn't matter anymore. And so that is my thing about, so I see that and I cringe a little bit because I'm like, no one was playing. I mean, now we get a football game on Christmas Eve every year, because if the NFL is not playing, then you've still got, the Hawaii Bowl. I think if we were watching San Jose State and South Florida go 4 overtimes on Christmas Eve, right? Yeah, got a much higher rating than that game has a right to get, but it's because it was the only one on. Next, I believe I'm guessing next. Let's see.
Next year Christmas is on Thursday.
Next year we will not have a Christmas Eve night game. Again, just the Hawaii Bowl. We will, I believe, have a triple header on Christmas Day. We'll have the 2 Netflix games during the day, and then we'll have Thursday night football that night. Once the NFL manipulated to have Christmas games on Wednesday, that's it. It's over. There will always,
sorry, LeBron.
Sorry, NBA, but there are going to be at least 2 games on Christmas Day forever now, I think. Yeah. It's gone. It's gone. It's over. If they were willing to do it on a Wednesday, the day of the week that required the most manipulation, that's it. There will always be NFL football on Christmas. Multiple games on Christmas. Some years 2, some years 3. I imagine with Christmas Day on Thursday next year, it'll be 3. I'm curious to see what it'd be in 2 years. Would they have a Friday night game, or would they do 2 games on Christmas Day in the afternoon and then Thursday night football on Christmas Eve? My guess is they would do that. So I don't think they'll have 3 games on Christmas Day every year, but they will next year. Maybe the Broncos will be in one of them. I tossed this out there. Broncos Bengals, those are usually really fun games, historically speaking. I mean, I think, they played some shootouts back in the 80s. There was the Corey Dillon game in 2000, down to the wire game in 2006. A wild Monday night game in 2014, another wild Monday night game in 2015 that was won in overtime. Trevor Siemian going off in 2016. The 2021 game where Drew Lock lost his mind on the RPO. Something interesting always happens when the Broncos play the Bengals. And if I'm the NFL, I'm looking at that history and I'm looking at the game this past Saturday and saying, give me that in prime time, a big prime time. Give me that on Thanksgiving night. Give me that on Christmas night. I feel like something might happen.
Yeah.
When you get those teams together.
The stars align.
Yes. Give me Broncos Bengals on Christmas or Thanksgiving next year. And in Denver, believe me, it's a lot easier if the Broncos play on a holiday and they're at home. Do this for me. I don't mind a home game on a holiday. I don't. Road game, it's a little tricky. Home game, I'm fine with.
For your customer's sake, for your daughter's sake, you might want to consider buying brake pads from me.
Yeah, do something for me. Lee doesn't do anything for me. It's time they did a little something for me.
Glenn's checking in from Germany. Look at this, man.
Vinveller, did I pronounce that correctly? Vinveller. I guess so. I assume that that the W's are pronounced like V's in Germany, in German.
Okay.
Edelweiss. Every morning you greet me. Oh, that's Austria, not Germany. Cecil Mace on the Pacific Northwest, been a Broncos fan since the early 60s, been through AFL days, etc. I can relate to the players and their journey. And you then know, Raphael, about the journey of those early Broncos and how long it took them to emerge. And think about this. We're talking about the playoffs for Garrett Bowles and Cortland Sutton potentially. Think about Floyd Little not getting a winning season until his 7th year and what it meant to him in 1973, what it meant to the town, what it meant to the fan base, and what it meant to Floyd, who'd come aboard as the franchise. You know, he famously said he wasn't sure where Denver was when he got drafted, and then became an inextricable part of the city. And what it meant to him to get above 500 finally toward the end of his career. You know, what it means to be a playoff team. I think being above 500, I don't think it moved the needle over in the Broncos building, nor should it have. It was brought up by some of us in the media, but to them it didn't mean anything. So
Yeah.
Paul Schaefer, Happy New Year. Is this the Paul Schaefer, former David Letterman band leader? Happy New Year to you too.
Yeah, you never know. You never know who's watching, Mace.
Yeah. Well, even if you're not that Paul Schaefer, it's good having you aboard. We appreciate you.
Yes, we appreciate you on this OBT After Dark. I want to know more sports documentaries that you watch.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll send you that Die Hard one. It is interesting because he had to find the actual film.
Yes.
He searched and searched and searched for a 1982 Notre Dame USC game, and he found it, and he cut it up. You show you the footage of zoomed in of that guy's TV screen. I have $50 on these Alohas.
Yeah.
That guy.
I mean, I remember seeing that and thinking, like, they wouldn't be playing on Christmas Eve. What the heck is up with that? Well, the interesting thing is, like, using a college game, because for a long time, the common thing when you wanted to use football footage was to use USFL games because those were available very cheap. I mean, I actually recall one documentary. It was about the New York Cosmos of the North American Soccer League back in the 70s and the 80s. And they were comparing soccer to other sports and saying, like, one of the things that American audiences don't get about soccer is that American sports have all these natural pauses. And they show John Reeves and the Tampa Bay Bandits of the USFL calling timeout because they're not getting the NFL clip, right? Because the USFL clip is cheaper to get. And so you see like USFL things pop up in movies. You see USFL still for a while you would see them pop up in like advertisements for televisions, and you show an image from a football game. It'd be from a USFL game because it was cheap to get.
Yeah.
So, but they got a college game I guess that's a higher. That probably costs a little bit more than USFL clip.
It's funny that's from 82, you know, because Die Hard, I thought it was 89, but it was 88.
Yeah,
but that clip is from 82.
Summer of 88 when it came out. So it was filmed in 87, but everyone celebrates it at 88, you know. Like I mentioned on social media last week, that's 36 years ago. Never forget. Showed a picture of an explosion at the top of Nakatomi Plaza.
Turn my car into Swiss cheese.
Yeah.
How many of this did you get on your timeline today? Got a lot of Scatabo on my timeline.
Not much, but a lot of Scatabo's the flavor of the moment right now. It's just testament to how deep this running back class is. It's not just Ashton Jeanty. By the way, Ashton Jeanty did not do anything to hurt his case for being RB1 in the draft. Given how Penn State was stacking the boxes, man, he still found his way to 100 yards.
75 after contact.
Yeah, like that was maybe the most individual 100-yard game I've ever seen, as in it really being him making it happen on his own. Like that was you. Yeah. Boise lost, and it may not have been as spectacular a game as you're used to from him, but given the circumstances, tremendous performance.
Yeah, no, yeah. It's he's still gonna go way before the Broncos pick.
Yeah, and so will Tyler Warren probably. If you want him, you're gonna have to move up. But the question is, who goes higher? Who costs more to move up? Like, would you give up what would you have to give up? Let's say Tyler Warren's about let's say he goes around Brock Bowers territory, pick 13, pick 14, right?
Okay, you got to move up 10 spots.
Or if you're one and done in the playoffs, you have to move up 5 spots, 5 or 6 spots.
It's doable.
Wouldn't cost you a future one. See, that's to me the thing is, I don't think you want to trade a future one. I think George Payton would have a conniption if a trade involved a future one. It's probably good. It's bad enough like trading a second round pick to move up or a third round pick to move up. It pains George Payton to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But Sean Payton is of the trade up and get my guy
F them
philosophy.
picks.
Yes. Although it's interesting, nobody set more picks on fire than George Payton did in the Russell Wilson trade.
Right. Right. Got a little in him as well, right?
The whole joke about how they watched Russell Wilson film in the first round back in 2022 because they didn't have a pick. And yet they still came out of the round 2 with Nick Bonito. Think about that. By the way, Nick Bonito basically is who they got for Von Miller. Think about that for a moment.
It's amazing.
Yes. You
Amazing.
traded Von Miller, and I'm not saying Nick Bonito is Von Miller's equivalent, but that's as good a return as you were going to get, as it turned out, for trading the best pass rusher in team history. Who, by the way, if you make the playoffs, you're about to see. And we were talking about this, a few of us media types during practice. Would it at all surprise anybody if the Broncos get to the playoffs and they go to Buffalo and Von Miller makes a play?
No.
I mean, Von isn't what he used to be, and certainly that ACL that he had, that ACL injury that he had in Thanksgiving of 2022, he hasn't been the same since then, although he's better this year than he was last year. I still maintain if he doesn't tear that ACL, Buffalo wins the Super Bowl 2 seasons ago.
Oh, yeah.
Because he was wrecking things. Like, he was having that DeMarcus Ware kind of season, the kind that Ware had when he was in Denver. But I feel like there's one more hurrah coming from Von Miller. And I think it's coming in this postseason.
It's time for him to do it, man.
And you hope it doesn't come at the expense of the Broncos, but it may very well happen that way. I mean, what if the Broncos go to Buffalo, play tough, they're trying to rally back, and it's Von that makes the play? The big sack. Would it all surprise me if that's how it worked out? No. Because I think Von's going kind of like Peyton Manning in that playoff run in 2015. I think Von is going to dig deep and exhaust whatever is left in his reservoir in this postseason. Because think about it for him as well. Like, if he gets to if he has a postseason with 2 or 3 sacks and the Bills win it all, and he basically has been a key part of postseason runs for 3 championship teams. I mean, Von's probably not going to, barring something unforeseen, he's not going to approach the sack total that I think maybe a lot of us thought he would if he could continue to stack seasons. Like, I don't think he's going to have Julius Peppers like sack total. Pep was blessed with better health than Von was. It's just the way it is. But if Von is a key player and the Bills go to the Super Bowl and win it, I mean, if I were him, I'd walk away right then and there. I'd be like,
oh, yeah. Yeah.
I go out on a high, and he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. And it very well could work out that way. I would not at all be surprised if there's one last hurrah here for Von Miller in the postseason. By the way, I know some people say, "Oh, the Broncos should bring Von Miller back." I don't think that's happening. I think the train has left the station. I think between what you've paid to Jonathan Cooper, what you have coming back in Nick Bonito, what you're developing in Jonah Ellis and what you're developing in Dondrea Tillman, man, who's really, he was so close for a bunch of weeks, and now those close plays are becoming sacks. Like, the Broncos go legit 4 deep in quality edges right now.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I don't think
From
there's
the UFL to the NFL.
I don't think there's room at the end for Von Miller. I mean, Drew Sanders had to go back to basically being an inside linebacker. I know Vance Joseph will say he's a linebacker. He's not inside or he's outside. He's a linebacker. Okay, fine. But when I watch practice going on, I see Drew Sanders practicing with the inside backers. So, and when he gets out there in a game, I see him taking inside backer reps. I see him taking reps from Justin Sternad. Maybe he takes a few more of them this week. So I appreciate you, Vance, what you're saying, that he can play both outside and inside linebacker. But right now, at this moment today, Drew Sanders is an inside backer. And part of it is that's where playing time existed. Playing time wasn't going to exist for him on the edge.
It's too crowded.
If you're number 5, if you're number 5 at edge, you're number 5 at inside backer. You're not getting a jersey. So the other thing is, I know Ben Katwika wanted to see Drew Sanders out there on special teams. Well, again, you got to get him a jersey. He's not getting a jersey if he's edge number 5. He's getting a jersey if he's inside backer number 4. So Raphael says, I'll be emotional for 72 for Garrett Bowles. Yeah, I think I'll be really happy for him if they can get to the playoffs.
This is a good one from Paul B, because it happened in the game against Cincinnati. I did not like the way that Bo Nix would abandon a clean pocket and not step up and throw. Now, when he did the Mims throw, as we talked about, that was a great trust throw. That's a great throw. It's a great catch. You're in double coverage. Honestly, when you let it go, I thought it was for Court.
Yeah.
In real time. I was like, oh, that's a Court throw. And then he came down with it. I was like, of course Court came down with it. Oh my God, that's Marvin. So
Oops.
that play notwithstanding. But too many times against the Bengals, it seemed like Bo wasn't trusting the protection that was there. He's only sacked a couple of times. But he has a habit sometimes of abandoning and escaping when he can stay or step up and climb.
Not only that, his footwork is how shall I say it? His footwork is a little more inconsistent than I'd like right now. When the pocket is clean. Look, sometimes you're gonna have to throw off platform. Everybody has to do it. And a quarterback in this league is not going to be able to succeed without successfully making off platform beyond structure plays. Can't happen without that. But the footwork should be clean with a clean pocket. And we're still seeing too often some back foot type of throws when he's got a clean pocket. That's something he needs to work on and clean up. Now, I'm sure he'll put the work in. I'm sure it's something they're discussing when they break down the film. But part of it is also you can only work on but so much during the context of a season. That's the sort of thing that I think you got to kind of put some more work into in the off season. Like, let's see where Bo Nix's footwork is with a clean pocket, say after OTAs in June. Where does it stand then? I expect we'll see some improvement.
Yeah. And I would expect improvement additionally from Luke Wattenberg in the middle, where people have the most issues. If you're paying attention to the offensive line, it's not the guards or the tackles. Wattenberg needs to be better. And maybe that's where Bo and him continue to mesh and grow together, trust each other together.
He hasn't been bad. Let's make that clear. And some games he's been very good. And certainly as a pass protector, he's ahead of Alex Forsyth, which is part of why Wattenberg got the job ahead of Forsyth. But there's some growth there. The interesting thing on Wattenberg is, as far as turning the page, believe it or not, next year is Wattenberg's contract year.
Whew.
Yeah, happens fast. Well, of course, he was one of those guys I mentioned when I rattled off the players who were part of the 53-man roster in Seattle at the start of the 22 season. Wattenberg was one of them because he was a rookie. So, oh, man. By the way, we're absolutely killing it with the live numbers right now.
I know. I see that. I see that.
I'm
What
stunned.
is the Ken Burns baseball doc?
Okay, 1994. Ken Burns has done some expansive documentaries, like he did one on the Civil War, for example, and he did one on baseball. It actually came out on PBS during the 1994 baseball strike, so the year in which we did not have a World Series. We didn't have October baseball. We had Ken Burns' documentary make up for it. It's tremendous. I'd say probably it's the GOAT of sports documentaries. And they, did it like inning by inning. And then a decade later, they did a 10th inning to kind of revisit what happened in the 90s and 2000s. I'd say we're probably due for an 11th inning. Ken Burns, if you're out there somehow watching this, I think we're due for an 11th inning addition to your baseball documentary, because my goodness, there's so much has happened. I mean, literally the game is played differently now because of the pitch clock and because of the limitations on the shift, and even the size of the bases increasing. I mean, just fundamentally in the last 3 years, it's become a different game. It's become a quicker game. I'm not in favor of every change that's been made. I don't like extra innings in the regular season, starting with a runner on second. But I can't deny that the changes regarding the pitch clock, the time for a pitching change, the number of pitching changes you can have, and that you got to have a relief pitcher out there for 3 batters in an inning. It's made it a better game. It's made it a quicker game. Made it a more appealing game. And I mean, even like my daughter talks about that as well, like, and how she likes how the games move a little bit faster. So I just don't like the idea of the golden at bat, which is like you get one at bat, you can send anybody to the plate. So like you get Shohei Ohtani out, yay, but they're going to use the golden at bat on Ohtani, so you got to face him again. I think that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Where's the line on anything? It's like the line is somewhere, right? Right? Like people are like, oh, well, where is the line? Here's the line here. The line is somewhere, okay?
It does exist.
There is a line like that you just don't go across. All right.
I thought this weekend was almost too many days of NFL football.
Ooh,
The only game that was worth a crap for Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday was the Broncos game, and they flipping lost. And there was a couple games on Sunday, whatever, but the Monday game was abhorrent, like just terrible football across the board. Maybe the Lions 49ers wasn't abhorrent, but like still, like this weekend proved to me, Mace, you can have too much football, although the ratings do not reflect that at all.
Arizona Rams still wasn't a bad game. It was competitive. Not an elegant game. It was competitive. It went down to the end. Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. I wonder, like, okay, next year, the 3 games on Saturday, they did those in this week because they needed those 2 games for last Saturday to set up the Wednesday game. So like they had to lock in teams. But this whole thing of we're going to choose our 3 Saturday games from 5. They did that a week earlier last year than this year. And if you don't have to figure out this Wednesday thing, you can do that 5 to pick 3 a week earlier next year. So I guess what I'm saying is, Cease, I expect next year we will see a Christmas Day triple header, but I do not expect we will see Friday games or maybe not even Saturday games as well. I don't think you're going to have a week. Like this week, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There were 8 national TV windows that were games as standalones. Now, I will say this. I'm one who suggests that there shouldn't be any of this Sunday ticket, that every game ought to be on a network somewhere, like the NCAA tournament, right? The NCAA men's and women's basketball tournament, like with the men's tournament specifically, you get a game on CBS, you get a game on TNT, TBS, True TV, and they're all going on concurrently. And you just pick whichever one is the best and you flip over to that, right? if you told me like that every game on Sunday was going to be on television, not on Sunday Ticket, but like one was going to be on CBS, one was going to be on Fox, one was going to be on ABC, one was going to be on ESPN, one was going to be on TNT, one was going to be on, whatever. Great. I'd be all for that. Like this week, for example, you'd stick, give me a game that sucks. I'm just going through it real quick.
Jets Bills?
Who's Indianapolis playing?
Mitchell Trubisky versus Tyrod Taylor, right? Indianapolis plays Tennessee,
Tennessee
or
Jacksonville, one or the other. Okay,
yeah, it's all division games.
I mean, that's the game that you'd stick over on True TV, right?
Sure.
Or Disney, or Disney Channel Plus or whatever. I mean, I don't know. By the way, you see what they're doing. The NFL, I thought, really threaded the needle well on the games this weekend by saying, all right, we're gonna have Carolina, Atlanta, and Tampa Bay, New Orleans all playing at the same. They're gonna play at the same time, and we're gonna do it to where you're gonna generally be able to watch both. By the way, I don't like the decision being made for which game is on TV early on Sunday on CBS. They're choosing Buffalo, New England over Carolina, Atlanta. I don't get that one, except it's, the Broncos might play Buffalo in the playoffs. But I'd rather watch a game that actually has some meaning, right?
Yeah.
Carolina, Atlanta. Over on Fox in the early window, what? The Fox game in Colorado on Sunday is Chicago at Green Bay, not New Orleans, Tampa Bay.
Wow.
What are they? What? That's just stupid. You have a game for a division title, like a team playing for a division title. Shouldn't every neutral market get that?
You'd think, right?
I was like expecting, I guess turn on the TV and get Tampa Bay. No, you're giving us Chicago, Green Bay. Bollocks to that. Oh, by the way, but if you want to watch Miami and the Jets late, you're going to be able to watch that. That'll be on at the same time as Broncos. So, like, if the Broncos are getting beat, okay, there may come a point where it's like you might want to turn on Snoop Huntley against Aaron Rodgers. No, seriously, if the Broncos are behind by 14 points in the second half, and Miami and the Jets is close, the eyes are going to turn to Miami Jets if it looks like the Broncos are going to lose. Because, of course, that being said, it's also incumbent upon Cincinnati losing because
Cincinnati's got to lose too.
Yeah, yep. Yeah. So if Cincinnati wins, then it's all about. But then it's all about the Broncos and the Chiefs because if they lose, they're out regardless. But, oh man.
Just win and you're in.
By the way, here's an interesting one. Like I'm looking at the TV maps at 506sports.com right now. Des Moines, Iowa, home of the Des Moines Institute. If you've seen Airplane 2, you know what I mean. Des Moines is getting San Francisco, Arizona, presumably because of the Brock Purdy factor, of course, going to Iowa State. But it looks like Brock Purdy isn't going to play this game.
Right.
Yeah, you may want to change that one for the good people in central Iowa.
Yeah, a lot of backups. Jimmy Garoppolo is playing instead of Matthew Stafford this week. Looks like Tanner McKee's playing instead of Jalen Hurts this week. Like lots of backups everywhere across this league.
It's going to be a hard game. It's a hard week to predict. That's why, like, if you're playing fantasy football this week, why?
You shouldn't be.
You shouldn't.
You should not be.
There's a reason why almost every fantasy league ends last week.
And even last week it was bad.
Yeah, but this is going to be. I mean, if you've got Broncos players, you're going to get an earnest effort. You've got you're going to get earnest efforts out of the Steelers and out of the Bengals. That would actually be interesting. How many teams are going to have their starting quarterbacks? Well, do we count Cleveland?
No.
Okay. So Baltimore, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, all will have their starters. On Sunday night, Minnesota, Detroit. So that's 5 there. Carolina, yes. Do we count Michael Penix as the starter since now he's kind of taken the job?
Now he is, yeah.
Okay. So let's see. We're through 5 games here, and we only have one backup quarterback. Giants, Philadelphia. No. Buffalo, New England. No. Looks like yes for New England. Houston, Tennessee. Is CJ Stroud going to play this one?
I don't think so. I don't think he should. By the way, Drake May has to play if he's healthy.
Yeah.
So the thing with May is he's got an undisclosed injury. But there you go. So he might not even play.
Oh boy, that game's gonna be woof if he doesn't play. Like he's the reason to watch that game, basically. Tennessee, no, Tennessee. What a mess Tennessee is. Like,
yeah.
Tennessee's got to be the favorite for Shedeur now, right?
But as I said at the start of the show when I was just rambling, Mace,
Yeah,
I'm already hearing
he doesn't want to go there.
that, and Cam Ward is getting some people to say, you know what, I like Cam Ward better. Doesn't mean they're right. NFL scouts say a lot, but in January they usually tell you more of the truth.
I think we know where Shedeur wants to go.
Yeah,
He wants to go on Broadway, baby.
yeah.
He wants the bright lights, the biggest stage imaginable. You know, good for him because there's a lot of guys out there who don't want that.
They would shy away from it.
Yes, like Eli Manning, different personality, but he was very well suited to New York because it didn't phase him.
Mhm.
You gotta be the right personality to be a New York quarterback.
By the way, is our guy Brian here correct? The
Yes.
Ken Burns baseball was referenced.
The Pledge Drive where George gets Danny Tartable to come down to PBS and they're going to do it, but George gets distracted because he thinks somebody is giving him the finger, and so instead of driving to the studio, they go chase down the driver. Turns out he's not giving the finger; he's just got a cast on his hand. It's got on the finger, and the finger's up, so it looks like he's giving him the finger. It's also the episode that involves eating candy with a knife and fork, a candy bar. Like Elaine's boss, Mr. Pitt, is eating his either his Milky Way or his Snickers bar with a knife and fork. And then George starts eating like his donut with a knife and fork. How do you eat it? With your hands? It's one of those classic Seinfeld episodes in which you have these disparate things, these threads that you don't seem to make any sense as subplots, and they all come together by the end of the show. It's what Seinfeld did so brilliantly. Like it got where you'd watch the start of the show and think, how on earth are they stringing this together? How are these things going to intersect? And then by the end of the episode, it made perfect sense. This is the one. This is also the episode with they had like the close talker, the long talker. This was the episode with the high talker where Elaine confuses her friend Noreen with Noreen's boyfriend Dan because Dan is a high talker.
That's
funny. It leads to the belief that Noreen is having an affair with Jerry instead, running around on Dan, and it drives Dan. It's like, Noreen, this is Dan. It's like his voice is like that. It's yeah. There's the subplot about Jerry not cashing the checks that his Nana has written to him over the years, and then Kramer encourages him to do that. Turns out the checks are cashed from an account that she doesn't use anymore, and the account's overdrawn. His Nana being on a fixed income, as Uncle Leo insists, and that despite that fixed income, Kramer encouraging his Nana to give a $2,000 donation to PBS. Hey, you don't want to be a freeloader, do you? I may have to watch that episode. It's a good one.
That's a good one.
Yeah, Sharon, I have a super processor for very useless things. like Seinfeld episodes in football. Although I think we get a little use out of the football with my job. So there's that.
Speaking of your job, I do want to reflect on Darren
boy.
Williams.
Oh,
Because you
yes.
had tweeted about it and you wrote something, and just going back to see in the Wayback Machine, because I believe I met you when you worked for NFL.com, or at least like emailed or something, right? We'd known each other a long, long time.
Way back, like 01.
Yeah.
It's been, but this was, of course, January 1st of 07.
Yes. And you're working on the Broncos desk, and you tweeted about it, and I just wanted to pick your brain and share some memories about the great young corner.
Man. There's a reason why the Good Guy Award's named for him. That's given out to a player for cooperation and with the media and like kind of, just making time, being accountable, answering questions after losses. It wasn't always perfect for Darren Williams. He had a game in 06 against the Colts where Peyton Manning picked at him and it didn't go well. And he didn't talk after that game, but was compelled to and kind of realized after he left that night that he should have. And so the next day in the locker room, because we used to go in the locker room on Mondays as well, and he talked at length. Like, it was sort of like he learned a lesson from that. And he was always good with the media, but the thing is, that season went downhill, but he played his best ball after that game. And even when they lost and they had bad losses, he was answering questions. Like, something out of that experience, that Colts game and how he handled it, it kind of clicked with him in terms of maturation. To where like he was a go-to guy in that regard. He was smart, knew you could, one of those guys that you could ask about defensive linemen, ask about facing receiver. He could give you something really insightful. And always smiling. Like, there was such joy from Darren and how he went about his day to day. Like, that's the thing I think everyone remembers about him is like, he had the high wattage smile. Like, he walked into the room and he was kind of the life of the room. I try not to go down the what if path too much because it's heartbreaking to think about. Of course, he played on New Year's Eve when the Broncos lost to the 49ers in overtime and lost a playoff spot.
Yep.
And I think all of us around the team at that time have had the thought that if they had won or tied that game, that they wouldn't have all been out that night as late. That they would have been back because they would have been at the facility early the next morning, start getting ready for a playoff game. That's the sort of thing that haunts you. It's I always say in a lot of ways that loss is the saddest and most profound in Broncos history. That loss to the 49ers. And there was and then as time went on, that team kind of unraveled from that.
Yes.
Like, Mike Shanahan lasted 2 more years as head coach. Effectively, I feel like the Shanahan era ended that overnight, that morning. I don't think the team really recovered from that until I'd say probably the 6 weeks of Tim Tebow in 2011. That's a long time to go through to have really like the organization just having a cloud over it.
And didn't Damian Nash pass away like
Damian
a little
Nash
bit after?
Yeah, and this is like another layer to it. He died of a heart condition not even 2 months after Darren Williams passed.
Mm-hmm.
And working for the team at the time, because we had just dealt with the death of a player, it was so fresh. Everyone knew what to do. Like, okay, we have to get this, get the black screen and the graphic on the front of the website. Like everyone, it was like, okay, let's we just repeated what we did for Darren Williams. I mean, losing 2 players in 2 months. I mean, first of all, it beats the hell out of any actuarial tables I've ever heard of.
I know.
And
Nick
second
has
of all,
shared the
just
story.
again, it broke. I think it broke the franchise.
Yeah,
for a while. I think it really broke the Broncos.
Yeah, as you would think it would be. I remember Nick Ferguson has shared the story of like when a 303 number would come up, he wouldn't want to answer the phone. And I remember the morning of learning of Darren Williams passing, I turn on the fan because there was no like Twitter or anything. So I turn on the fan and it's Mark Schlereth.
Yeah.
In the early morning talking about Darren Williams, his pass. So that was one of those odd things to have come up.
You know what?
Certainly impactful.
It's funny that earlier this show we were talking about the phone going on DND because they had announced they were going to do like the locker clean out and everything not on New Year's Day, but on January 2nd on the Tuesday. And so I thought when I put my story to bed and all my content to bed, I thought I can sleep in. And I turned my phone on silent and I woke up at like 7 a.m. and it was this flood of messages wondering where I was because I thought I had the chance to sleep in. No, I didn't,
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, man, it was hard. Like it was hard. They, from a football perspective as well. I mean, and this is what I mean by like everything it felt like everything it was a thread that got pulled. About a week later, Mike Shanahan fired Larry Coyer, the defensive coordinator, the late Larry Coyer. And I thought that was a mistake the moment he did it. Jim Bates, respect to him, but he was a disaster as defensive coordinator. Bob Slowick, who took over play calling, wasn't any better. The defense after Darren Williams left was poor. Like the following 2 seasons, it was poor. Not just because they lost Darren Williams, but it didn't help. Like Dre Bly, they trade for him. He wasn't as good as Darren Williams. And then you had, Nick Ferguson getting older and he got injured. And John Lynch got older and eventually got cut. It was there was a parade of guys coming in on the front 7. It was I think that's a good way of putting it. Is like the thread that got pulled and everything unraveled. On the defensive side, offensively, Jay Cutler by 2008 was putting things together, but it wasn't enough to mask the deficiencies on one side of the ball. That basically got Mike Shanahan fired.
Yeah.
That's a wild what if. Like if Darren Williams if the Broncos had made the playoffs and Darren Williams had not been killed, how would those future years have looked? Would Mike Shanahan have stuck around longer? Josh McDaniels would never have happened, right?
Right.
At least not around here. He would have messed up some other organization, maybe Tampa Bay, because they were looking for a coach about the same time as the Broncos.
Ooh.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of football with this team, Mace.
We've seen a lot of stuff. I never say I've seen everything because if I think I've seen everything, I see something new. Okay. I mean, even last Saturday, I've seen Sean Payton go for 1 there when it seemed obvious to go for 2. That was a surprise.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't occur to me as I was watching that they would go for 1. Like I immediately thought 2. That's the thing. Immediately thought 2.
Sean Payton, man. It's gonna go for 2.
Oh man, you've got me pensive now.
Ah,
Pensive on this new year. Like usually you're reflective on like New Year's Eve as
New
the
Year's
year
Eve,
ends.
right?
I'm
right.
I'm pensive as I go into the new year and reflective as I go into the new year.
Are you a resolution guy? By the way, we got a question about what our karaoke song would be, so we'll finish on that. But are you a resolution guy at all? I know I always talk about thoughts, emotions, and actions, and dreams and goals. Like I am very goal oriented as a person. How do you take? Because everyone does resolutions, or a lot of people do, and I just say, hey, do what makes you happy. If you stick with it, great. If you don't stick with it, great. Just be a good person.
I tend to not make any resolutions until after football season because they're basically useless schedule wise until after the Super Bowl. So,
Very true.
yeah, like I don't. It's pointless to make a reservation before I fly out of the Super Bowl city, and then I got a couple of weeks before the combine. But even then, it's only a couple of weeks. Like you start, yeah, like it's hard. Like, but the other thing is like the new year. It's basically it's kind of a random demarcation, right?
Right.
I mean, it's nothing to it. As I hang on here, just adjust the camera a little bit. You remember it's arbitrary. Like you remember in Good Will Hunting when Minnie Driver's character suggests go get some coffee and Matt Damon's character is like, yeah, we'll go have some caramels. When you think about it, it's as arbitrary as drinking coffee, right? Like it's an arbitrary date, right? And you don't turn all of a sudden it doesn't become 2025 and things change. And tragically, we were reminded of that today. Like we all woke up to what happened on Bourbon Street. There's your example of, okay, yeah, it's a new year. We got the same problems we had yesterday. It's just that it says 2025 when you put down the date instead of 2024. So I tend to not really be a resolution guy, and especially like that. All of a sudden, you just kind of snap your fingers and really change like who you are and what you do. I think that's nonsense. It might work for some people. It doesn't work for me. It takes a little more work than that.
I think you need to be a realization guy because if you don't realize what you're doing, you're going to have the same old crap that you had last year.
Mm-hmm. I think it's healthy to reflect on things and say, okay, this is what I could do better. This is what I should do better. Or even reflect on things where you say, all right, what's causing the stress points? And then when I don't mean like stressed out, I mean like stress that like stress on a joint when you're, like a hinge or something like that, right? Part of a bookshelf or whatever. Like what's causing this shelf to bend and not be straight? Am I putting too much weight on that shelf? I think that's the sort of thing that it's healthy to do. I just don't necessarily think it has to be done on January 1, but every now and again, it's kind of good to take stock and realize, and maybe you realize the hard way. Maybe you realize that you're buckling and struggling in a lot of ways. Maybe, I saw this video that was shared with me recently about like two people having like big cups, like cups that you put water in, but one was a lot bigger than the other. The smaller one was a person who was neurodivergent, and I've spoken about being on the autism spectrum, and the person on the autism spectrum, their glass overflows much more quickly than the one who's not neurodivergent, right? And the thing that I sometimes find myself reflecting on is, okay, clearly sometimes I think my glass is overflowing. And, I may come up here and, it may look fine on the surface, but sometimes it's all I can do to make this look good on the surface when I'm talking to all of y'all here on the show. But then we turn off the camera and go back into my own world, and I'm the glass is just overflowing and I can't, and it's spilling all over the floor. And, what do I do about it? And I think maybe that's the sort of thing that you reflect on is, okay, what can we do are there ways to manage things better? Are there way to manage the things that come at me better? That's the sort of reflection that I think I'll end up doing. And I'm probably already doing it really, but when I really have time, probably when the Broncos bow out of the playoff mix, whether it's they don't make the playoffs or when they, if and when they're eliminated, I'll probably do a little bit of reflection on that before we get down to the Shrine and the Senior Bowl. At least I hope I have, maybe I won't have time. Maybe the Broncos go all the way to the conference championship game. We don't have that time.
Yeah. We got to hit up that Mexican restaurant, though, back in Dallas that we did last year because that place was awesome.
Oh, yeah. Some good margaritas.
Good times.
Yeah. Can we say that? Oh, we just did. Oh, well.
We just did. It's 11 o'clock at night.
Some good cold pops.
Made it an hour and 50.
I can't believe you did that. You told me you were tired.
You energized me.
Oh, man. Okay. Oh, I'll admit but here's another thing. I have more energy now having done this. So,
okay.
Which is good because I got an article to write here before I go to bed.
And I'm about ready to peter out. So.
And I got some video to clip for tomorrow before I go to bed because we got a show tomorrow because we're gonna talk a little about Cortland Sutton tomorrow, I think. Or it might be Friday. I think what we talk about tomorrow may depend on what Vance Joseph says tomorrow. Because I think we gotta have another conversation about this defense here. It might be a fatal flaw for this team. We'll see. But I'm feeling good. Are you feeling good?
I'm feeling like I'm gonna get some rest.
All right, because you got radio tomorrow as well. You got to talk for 4 hours.
Yeah, a podcast before that. So
God, I don't know how you talk that much. My social battery has limited recharging capacity.
You see how much Mountain Dew I drink?
I'm right there. I've got a beverage refrigerator right over there, and it's always stocked with like Coke Zero and Mountain Dew. Although I have caffeine-free Coke Zero for the evenings. So, yeah. 1:02 a.m. in Syracuse. It's 1:02 a.m. back east, and I point that out because I know my mom's watching right now.
Holy cow. Hi, Mama Mace.
Yeah. She's a night owl.
There you go.
Yeah. Night owl. Whoo, whoo. 1 p.m. in Thailand. Hey, this is perfect. Perfect for you. And, Mom texts me. It is time to go to bed, son. All right. I love you, Mom.
She calls it, man. She calls it.
I think she's calling the show. I think, Mom, we'll let you call. We'll let you call it here. There we go.
There you go. We made it to 16K because y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you. This show was for you. So take it and enjoy. We just appreciate you and we love you all very much. This show means a lot to me and Mace. Our audience means a lot to us as well. So thank you guys.
Thank you. Thank you out there. Thank you, Cease. Talking with you, Cease, and talking with you all out there in the audience, it is the best part of my workday. I'll say that. Best part of my working hours every day is talking ball with all of you. So for that I'm grateful. And I'm grateful that so many of you have followed me at my stops as well and have allowed me to be gainfully employed doing something that is just, man, I'm living my childhood dream every day. It's pretty awesome.
It's pretty damn cool, man.
Yep.
What else is cool is helping us out on YouTube. How can people help us out, Mace?
Like,
comment,
share,
subscribe,
hit that notification bell
so that you
never miss a vid.
That's right. He's Andrew Mason. Follow him on all the socials at Mace Denver. Matt C. Salami saying OBT's BFD. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned and stay frosty.